Stranger Things Season 4 Volume 2 will be releasing in 2 or so hours. And before that happens, I want to make a prediction. Eddie Munson is going to die, probably instead of Steve. Let me explain. Eddie's entire character arc in this season can more or less be summed up by his cowardice, something he clearly feels insecure about. He says as much to the group, dragging himself down based on the fact that he always runs away. He did it with Chrissy, and he believes that he'll do it again. This is a pretty classic story setup where he will eventually end up doing the exact opposite when it matters the most at the end of the story, but you all probably already know that. It's not exactly a bold take to say that Eddie will die, but I want to take a look at a moment in the first episode of the season that I don't often hear discussed in these conversations, and that would be when they're playing D&D in the Hellfire Club. To the party's horror, the villain Vecna, who they previously thought was dead, is back. Faced with the decision to run or fight to the death, they bravely choose the latter, hashing it out with the monster, landing bad roll after bad roll. Now, this is interesting. It seems to me that a very similar scene will play out in Volume 2, where the older teens will probably have to make the more or less same decision and have it similarly go wrong. Maybe they go in, fight him, think he's dead, but he actually comes back. The party is eventually left with only 2 players, Dustin and Erica. They again have to make a decision, stay and fight, or run and hide. But more interestingly, before they make that decision, Eddie offers them a piece of advice. They should try and escape, that there is no shame in running. And then the line that made me believe instantly that Eddie was going to eventually die, "Don't be heroes." Now, if that's not foreshadowing for Eddie to ignore that advice and be a hero at the end of the season, I don't really know what is. But then he says a line that convinced me even more, that oddly enough doesn't really fit at all with what else he's saying. It just kind of comes across as awkward. He says, "Not today." Weird, right? It is, except if you believe this to be an even strong confirmation of this foreshadowing. That one day, soon, it'll be time to be a hero. Here's how I think it'll go down. We've already seen in the trailer for the second volume that Eddie is on the roof playing the guitar, but who happens to be with him? Dustin. At least it looks like him. I believe that is meant to mirror Dustin and Erica in the Hellfire Club, with Eddie obviously filling Erica's role. Thus, they will be presented with a choice. Stay or run. Now, I obviously think they'll stay and fight, but, well, they're not exactly fighting. So what are they doing? I believe this has something to do with the obvious death flags that pertain to Steve. When Eddie confesses to how much of a coward he thinks he is, he does so to Steve. He talks about how he always just runs, and that he's even jealous of how Dustin looks up to Steve. Eddie even admits that he's actually a good person, acknowledging his own biases and being openly frustrated about this. He clearly wants to be a hero. He then says that he would never jump in that lake to save Steve, under normal circumstances. If this isn't foreshadowing, then that's honestly a cruel writing trick. We must also take into account again that he's directly admitting this all to Steve, the character that everyone thinks is going to die. I think Steve will go back in to save Nancy, but something will go wrong. Dustin and Eddie will then also go in, or already be there for whatever reason, and make the courageous decision to be a distraction so the other 2, or 3 depending on if Robin is also with them, can safely escape. The bets presumably navigate with sound, so it really is a perfect distraction, especially since Vecna also probably gets a sense of direction from them. After they escape, Vecna will confront Dustin and Eddie just like how he does in the D&D game. This is when Eddie will finally be a hero, fulfilling all the overwhelming amounts of foreshadowing in previous episodes. He's gonna save Dustin, the kid who he wishes admired him. And in doing so, he will almost certainly die, with the town hopefully remembering him as a hero. Actually, I think they will, because I believe the secrets of the Upside Down will become public knowledge. Or maybe that's just wishful thinking, because that would make for a very interesting 5th season to cap off the series. But yeah, I am almost certain Eddie is going to die, and it'll probably be to save Steve and then Dustin, which I think will surprise those who thought Steve would die. Without Eddie, he almost certainly would. Despite what he thinks of himself, at the end, he will be a hero. Today is the day. And, as always, thank you for watching.